Planning your move to Australia? The Ultimate Immigration Checklist Bundle has everything you need to stay organised and stress-free as you navigate this adventure. Get yours today at movetoaustraliatoolkit.com.
Welcome to the New Life in Australia podcast, hosted by me, Karen Bleakley, founder of smartstepstoaustralia.com. Moving to Australia with my family was a life-changing experience, but it wasn't without its challenges. That's why I'm passionate about making the relocation and resettlement process easier for you so you can enjoy this exciting adventure. Join me and my special guests as we share professional secrets and tips, learn from people who've made the move, and discover businesses that can help you realise your dreams. Now is the best time to create the life you've always wanted. This podcast is here to show you what's possible and to inspire you every step of the way. Let's go.
Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I live, work and play. I thank them for the privilege of being able to live in such an incredible part of the world, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of a New Life in Australia podcast. This week I've been really having a great chat with Charles from Sterling Services, who are a relocation agency that can help you move to Perth in Western Australia. We talked about all the things to do with relocating to Western Australia, but lots of the information is relevant regardless of where you're moving in the country as well. So wherever you're moving, I'm sure you'll get lots out of it. But if you're moving to Perth, definitely give this one a listen. Let's get started and run the interview. Hey there, today we're talking to Charles from Sterling Services. So Charles, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your business? And I know you also relocated to Perth. Could you just kind of give us a bit of an overview about yourself?
Yeah, hi Karen, hi everybody. So we, myself and my family, my husband and my 9-year-old, relocated to Perth just over 2 years ago now. We previously obviously lived in the UK, as you could probably tell from the accent, in various places, but also previously lived in Sydney before that as well. So we have quite a good understanding of Australia, and myself, I've lived in various different places, UK and around the world before that over many, many years. We relocated a couple of years ago with my husband's job. We arrived in Perth. At the time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my career. I'd had quite a varied career in various industries in the past, but as kind of alluded to, I had moved quite frequently UK and internationally during my many years. And using my kind of experience, it was actually my husband who said, well, look, we've moved to Australia twice. You've organised it. We had the support of a relocation agent actually on both occasions, which was reasonable, I would say, in terms of the experience we got from that. Why don't you use your experience of moving and relocating and your passion around service and and getting things delivered in an efficient, quick way to deliver, put together a relocation service. And I was probably the last person who actually who would set up their own personal business, as it were. I'd been very corporate in my life, and it took a bit of thinking and persuasion. And I absolutely love it. It's the best thing I've ever done. I love running my own business. I love helping people, and that's really key for me. Is I always say there's lots of stuff you do when you're as a relocation agent before you get to the point where somebody moves, flies in, gets off the plane and arrives in the house. The best bit for me always is handing over the keys. And I always make sure I try and hand over the keys to the clients. And the best bit is seeing their faces when they walk into their brand new house in Perth, and being able to show them around and talk to them around the local areas, but also around the house and things, how things work. And the difference is that, the houses have comparative here to the UK, for example. That's the best thing, and seeing the smile on their family's faces as they walk in and they start their new life and their new time in Perth. That's kind of makes the job the best it can possibly be.
Yeah, and you're helping people have this amazing adventure, and you've had the adventure yourself, so you know how challenging it can be and how emotional it can all be as well. So I'm sure that is so rewarding to be on the end of that when people actually achieve their dream and they actually get over here.
Absolutely, definitely. It is it is one of the most, all jobs have their own rewarding experiences, but it is, as I said, it's both going through that process and that and taking the stress away from families. But we're going through that process with them as they learn about different things about Perth and how things work here and in Australia, full stop, etc. Then it really helps. It's just an amazing experience for me, and it's hopefully a good experience for them as well.
Now, something that I get asked quite a lot is, what is the difference between a migration agent and a relocation agency or a relocation agent? And they're really different things. They help in completely different ways. Can you just kind of give us a bit of an overview of what you do as a relocation agency?
Absolutely. So as a relocation agent or agency, we don't deal, it's probably easier to explain what we don't do. We don't deal with visas, for example. We don't help you find a visa. We're not registered with MARA to be able to do that kind of thing. So we won't help, or we can't help you find visas or give you advice on whether you'll get a job, for example, or a visa or a PR, for example. What we do is we help you. The first thing I think probably what we do is we probably take away that stress of finding a home when you're moving across the world from whatever country you're coming from, helping you get through that stressful period. I've been through it. I know what it can be like. Moving home is, as everyone knows, is one of the most stressful periods of your life anyway. Moving home across the world, wherever you're coming from, it just makes that 10 times. So we support with providing that stress, reducing that stress, I guess, and help you find a home and a place that's right for you and your family. So one of our key things, we'll always start with our clients. We always start with understanding you and understanding our clients and our customers as their family, as their children, what they like doing, what their hobbies are, what the jobs obviously are going to be if they have jobs when they come here. And really starting to drill down into the kind of things that the families will be doing on the weekends or their time off, etc., whether that's going to the beach, with both aspirational things and things they do now as well. Because families will come here and they already have a life. They go to the gym, they go to the shops on a Saturday, they may go to the cinema once a month, etc. But they will also have aspirational stuff that they might want to do. They might want to take up windsurfing, they might want to take up all these kind of things that Perth allows you to do, or Australia allows you to do. So we'll really dig deep into those kind of things and understand what the family wants, what the family needs and wants from their future life in Perth, in Australia, and then work through what kind of locations will support that for them, so that we're not they're not looking for houses in an area that they can't go to the beach very quickly, for example, or they can't go to the shops, or the cinema is not very close, or the shopping centre is not very close, etc.
It's that local knowledge that's so important, because I know that when we moved to Brisbane, we were really lucky that we had some friends who'd moved who were able to kind of point us in some directions. But if you don't have connections in the city that you're moving to and you don't know the information, it was little things like, if you move to this suburb, you might get cut off when there's bad storms because that road floods. Little things that just you have the local knowledge of, that is so important when you've got to commute to work or school, or like you say, if you have a lifestyle kind of thing that a hobby you like to do, making sure that that's going to be accessible for the location that you choose.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely. You sum it up so much better than I do. Yes, absolutely. And then obviously the key part is then finding a home for our customers that work for them as a family. Then, as I alluded to when we first started, the best bit is about helping them move in and getting them settled in. My job and our job doesn't end when we hand over the keys. I'm in constant contact with our clients after the key handover. We support them with whatever things that they might need, because it is a transition and there are things that may come out of the woodwork that they don't understand, don't get. And we are always there on the other end of the phone, or even driving up to see them again to help with anything that they might need in order to make sure that they settle into Perth.
Yeah, no, that's really, really valuable, because when you don't know things, just having somebody there to just send a message, how do I do this? So many things are different here when you get to Australia, and just having that connection with somebody that knows the answers must be really useful.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I love Perth, and I know I was just saying to you before we hopped on the call that we very nearly moved to Perth. I've got family in Perth. My husband and I, when we were backpacking years ago before we had kids, we travelled the East Coast and we liked it. But it was when we headed to WA that we really, really fell in love with Australia. And we were kind of driving down from Broome down the coast. And I think it was when we hit around kind of Exmouth and Shark Bay, we just looked at each other and said, we could live in this country. It's beautiful. So many amazing lifestyle opportunities, so many amazing holidays to take and places to explore. And then we got down to Perth and spent time there and really, really loved it. And we would have completely moved to Perth if we'd had a work connection there that was kind of feeling like it was going to work out. But at the last minute, we had to make a call between going where our heart said, which was Perth, or going where our head said, which was Brisbane, where we had work connections. And we ended up with Brisbane. And we love living in Brisbane, but I'm sure we would have loved Perth too. So I think it's a really underrated city. If people are trying to decide which city to move to in Australia, I know people tend to veer towards your Sydneys, your Melbournes, maybe your Brisbanes. Perth tends to get sort of overlooked a little bit. What makes Perth such an amazing city?
Gosh, so yeah, I think the one thing we found around Perth being very different to, for example, Sydney, is its family friendliness. It is a city and is it an area that absolutely is all about families. Everything is built for families, the parks, the beaches, everything is centered around having great family activities. And I'm not saying the other states don't have that and Sydney doesn't have that, but it's much more focused here in Perth. So if you're coming across to Australia and thinking, I want somewhere that is going to be both great for families in terms of abilities and amenities, etc., but also safe and friendly, then Perth gives you absolutely all of that. There are very few places in Perth that I would actually say to my clients, don't move there. Very few. They're all safe. They've got great schools, particularly primary schools, and very known for that. So I think from my perspective, Perth is very family friendly. I think the other thing as well, as you kind of touched on it, is the scenery, the light, the openness. Perth is very spread out. It's one of the things we always talk to our clients and customers about, is that it is very spread out. So you generally do need a bit of a car, unless you happen to be living in the CBD and you want to stay within the CBD, you need a car. But the amenities, the potential, the things that are going up north or down south. We spend quite a lot of our time in Buston, which is further down south. It's a beautiful area, a bit of a seasidey resort if you want to compare it to the UK in some respects or some other countries. But there's so much to be seen and so much, and you feel like you're going on holiday every day. If you're popping up the north, it might take you 3 or 4 hours, but you do feel like you're going on holiday. The scenery is amazing, the sea is beautiful, and it's just so light and airy and open. It's very difficult to explain in words.
It is so different to the East Coast. It's just so different to the East Coast. The ocean is bluer, the sand is whiter. It just feels more open. Not that I love Brisbane and I love Queensland, and now that we're here, this is where we'll stay in Queensland because I do love it. But I think I've always got an affinity with WA, and I just love all of the different experiences that you've got over there. And I know you're a wine drinker, so I'm sure you love all the wineries that are not too far out of Perth as well.
Yeah, I try and avoid going to the wineries. To be fair, it's not a good idea. It's a beautiful wineries wineries at the west of Perth and north of Perth, and also down in the Margaret River kind of area. It's an amazing, I think we were down in the Margaret River a few months ago, and it's for those from the UK, it's very like Cornwall, Devon. It feels very Devonish, Cornwallish, with some of the most amazing wineries and amazing wines as well. Absolutely. But I'll stop talking about wine.
It's too early in the morning for that at the moment.
Absolutely.
So in terms of what opportunities you've got available in Perth, can you kind of just talk a little bit? You mentioned primary schools are really good. What are the houses like? I know we were really impressed. We were visiting my cousins and my aunt who lived over in Perth, and we were just really impressed at the space around properties and the opportunity to build your own home. I know we have that opportunity in all different parts of Australia, but it was quite a while ago that we were there, but Perth was really growing and expanding, and the train line was expanding out as well and just making more places more accessible. So can you kind of talk a bit more about the opportunities there, kind of home, work, lifestyle?
Of course, yeah. So I think if you're thinking about work, remote working is now as continues to be a significant opportunity for people. So being able to come to Perth and work remotely as with your businesses, and there's lots of multinational businesses here, so potential opportunities for people to move with their work. FIFO, so fly in, fly out. I always say just FIFO. People look at me blankly. So fly in, fly out. And those are the guys, the people who work generically in mines across the northern parts of Perth and some in southern as well. Is a massive opportunity here with great lots of jobs, availability of jobs, and it's a continuing industry that is getting bigger and bigger, shrinking in some areas, but mostly getting bigger, which offers great rewards as well, both financially for people who are prepared to do that kind of fly out for 6 days, work hard for 6 days, come back for 7 days, or whatever the shift patterns have to be, fly out again for 6 days. Now, there are pros and cons to that, but actually from a financial perspective, it really is a great opportunity for people who are happy to do that. So the job market out here is strong and or continues to be strong. In terms of housing, there's obviously lots of houses, whether you're buying or renting. Now, when I say lots of houses, there isn't enough houses, as a lot of countries are experiencing in terms of availability for houses for the amount of people, which is where we come in terms of particularly for renting. But the houses here are, as you kind of alluded to, very large, generally very big. Very open space. I was talking to a client last night actually who'd been doing some research themselves on the houses and the difference. They were shocked at the very open plan dining room, lounge, kitchen, kind of very large open plan, lots of light, etc. In them. So you'll find houses here comparative to some areas, some countries are spacious with good outdoor space as well. So and often the ability to get to things like parks and local parks is also quite good for families, etc. So the houses here, the housing stock here is very strong and at a good standard generally. And you get quite a lot of the older style houses as well, which have been refurbished, which are near beaches, for example, that give you, again, lots of space, but great access to the kind of the lifestyle stuff that you perhaps want from when you come to Perth. So I think overall, in terms of lifestyle, it gives you a great opportunity in terms of being able to live that outdoor lifestyle. Those barbecues on the beach, or those barbecues in the local park, which are all set up for you. You just rock up and do your barbecue, and then you clean away and walk away. You know, that's a very unusual thing for those guys coming from different countries. And the lifestyle, the houses, and the job prospects are very strong out here.
Moving to Australia can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. The Move to Australia directory from Smart Steps to Australia brings together all the essential services you need into one convenient place, making it easier to find the right professionals to turn your dream into reality. Whether you're looking for a trusted migration agent, competitive shipping quotes, guidance on buying your first home, or help relocating your beloved pet, our directory has it all. We've curated the best services to support your new life in Australia. Find everything you need to make your move stress-free, with experts just a click away. Visit directory.smartstepstoaustralia.com and simplify your relocation journey today. Yeah, no, that's great. So what are some of your personal favourite things to do in and around Perth? I know you said you've got a son as well, so where do you go? Where do you hang out? I know here in Brisbane, it's really popular to go to kind of Australia Zoo and the theme parks on the Gold Coast and things like that, but what is there for families to do around Perth?
So I think personally, we spend a lot of time at the beach. I live down south in Mandurah, where I can look out on my balconies and I can see the dolphins in the Mandurah foreshore swimming across. There's nothing like that. Whale trips, being able to get on a boat and 20 minutes out and see lots of different types of whales, etc., is amazing. It's something we love to do. We spend a lot of time, whenever possible, on the water and at the beach. And that's where we spend most of our time, to be fair, with my 9-year-old. When we're not at the beach, obviously we work, both of us. But as a family, we love to go into Perth, out to Kings Park, and have a good wander around. That can be a good few hours around Kings Park, and also just Perth itself. The Elizabeth Quay is a beautiful area where you can just sit and have a cup of tea or coffee, or even a glass of wine, perhaps, or one or two glasses of wine, and some nice food. Perth has so much to offer in terms of restaurants, cafes. So we spend a lot of time whenever possible in Perth, just chilling really and relaxing. It's a very chilled and relaxed environment to live in.
Yeah, no, that's the vibe we got when we were there. We just loved it. It was just so relaxed, but it wasn't I guess you have an opinion of Perth, or people give the impression that it's a sort of smaller town, it's out of the way, it's in the middle of nowhere. It can't offer the same kind of quality of things that other bigger cities offer. But as you say, you've got amazing places to eat and fantastic coffee and all of these great lifestyle places to go have ice cream at the beach and all of this sort of stuff. So that's lovely.
Absolutely, and you're not going to get lost in Perth. It is a smaller city. Let's be realistic; it is smaller than some of the bigger cities around Australia. But absolutely, you're not going to get lost, and everything's within easy reach. But you've still got the same quality and quantity, essentially, of everything that you would ever want in any city that you live in.
Yeah, no, for sure. So if somebody was considering using your services and they were trying to decide whether they need to use a relocation agent, what would be the first step? What would the process look like of them reaching out to you? And how do you kind of go about assessing the next steps? What help they need?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually not usually, but with all of our clients, we start with a chat. And that's just a free phone call that we have, or video call. And we chat with all of our clients around what their aspirations are, what's happening in their life, when are they planning to move, and all those kind of high-level questions around their potential move to Perth, Australia. That enables us then to help understand what support that individual and that family may actually need from us in terms of relocation. And we offer a variety of packages, but also, more importantly, we offer a tailored service. So we use that opportunity to understand from the client and the customer what is they need from us. We're not going to push or sell a package or a product to you. We're about understanding what it is you need from us. We'll be very open and honest about what we can do and what we can deliver for you. And then it's up to you as the client or the customer as to understand, okay, well, Charles, we would like you to do this for us, whatever that may be. We're here to support rather than tell you what you need or where you need to be, etc. But yeah, so the first part is to really just get in touch via our website or by our call, and then we will have a chat with you and work through what support you need. Or if you don't need support, because we're more than happy to get to the end of that call and say, do you know what? You don't need us. So that's fine. That's not a problem at all, because we're here to help you work through that.
Yeah, and to work out where the support is needed.
Absolutely.
So now I hope you've got your crystal ball ready. This is a question that I'm going to be rolling out to different people to make predictions and kind of suggest what's going on in the future. But how do you see Perth developing as a city? I know it's changed a lot from when I was last there visiting. It's definitely a city that's been in development over the last sort of 20 years or so. What opportunities do you see for the city, and where do you kind of see the developments going?
Absolutely. So I think, as I talked about jobs earlier, I think in terms of the labour market, that will continue to get stronger and stronger. I don't foresee any changes to that. It will just get bigger. And so the opportunities for people to move to Perth and find good jobs with good, strong salaries and being able to live a good life in Perth will continue. Development of infrastructure continues. We've just had a new train line opened up, which opens up some of the northernmost suburbs to connect into the CBD. So that's the central business district. That's the centre of Perth for those who don't understand that terminology. But in terms of, if you look around Perth, both south and north, housing development and additional housing is constantly being applied. So if you look particularly down south, for example, from Mandurah all the way up to Fremantle across the eastern coast, there's lots of housing developments with new schools coming in, new leisure centres and all those kind of amenities and parks that you would want as a family. All of that is being, is being built as we speak and continues to be built. So I see Perth as continuing to develop and getting much larger over time, and those empty spaces that we've got lots of at the moment will be filled by housing and those kind of great amenities that you would want as a family if you were moving to Perth. So I think Perth has got amazing opportunities for the future and will continue, and the government here are very focused on bringing people in to Perth whether it be work or tourism, obviously. But really focused on that, on bringing guys into Perth to make Perth even better than it is now.
Yeah, I think it will definitely be changing. I think all of the cities are developing and changing, but I definitely think Brisbane and Perth are the two that I see really expanding and growing over the next decade or so. Right, I've asked my audience as well for some questions for you, and I've got kind of a list of quick fire questions here that I've rounded up. How do the suburbs around Perth differ? So what are some good family-friendly neighbourhoods? I know you were saying that there aren't really many neighbourhoods that you don't recommend. Are there any that you really do recommend that offer that great family lifestyle?
Gosh, that's the question. One of our biggest things, we've got some blogs actually on north and south of where we've got blogs on north and the differences between what they call NOR, N-O-R, and SAW, Perth. So north and south of the Swan River of Perth. And I find that a lot of clients and customers will want and think that North Perth is absolutely where they want to be because, there's lots of shopping centres up there and it's I call it cosmopolitan, it might be the wrong word, but it's very cosmopolitan in my mind, lots of cafes, restaurants, cinemas, etc. Where south of Perth, so south of the river, so Fremantle down essentially is more relaxed, more chilled. Very much more kind of open spaces. You might have to get in the car to go to the cinema, to the shop, etc. So I think the differences are reasonably clear between north and south. And within those, both north and south of Perth, there are amazing areas to live. As I said earlier, there's very few areas that are not family friendly, that are not in terms of great to live. So it's very difficult to answer specific suburbs because, again, one of the things we always do with our clients is really deep dive into what it is they want from their family life. And that helps us then to work through the kind of suburbs that might work for them, because each suburb has its own, very much in like any country and any city, each suburb has its own opportunities, its own benefits, and its own areas that might not work for some families. So really understanding those families and what they need from their lives will help us to understand the location. So in a roundabout kind of way, it's very difficult to say.
No, it makes sense. And that's why the value of appointing a relocation agent to help you is that you know all of the neighbourhoods really well. And if somebody says, I need a neighbourhood that my kids go to gym class 5 times a week, we want to be near the beach because we like kayaking, we want really good coffee, this is our house price budget, and we're going to work in this particular area, then you can kind of look at a map and kind of start narrowing down where those sort of suitable locations are. It gives you kind of that information. So I think it's just too hard to just say. People say to me all the time, where should I live in Brisbane? It's like, well, like you say, it's a really big city. There's a lot of different suburbs all over and they all offer very different things. And like you say, different house price points as well and different opportunities for accessing work and public transport and all of those things. So yeah, it's a very hard one to
It's definitely.
And I'll pop a link below if you send me the links to those blog posts. I'll pop a link below in the show notes so people can have a little read of those as well. That'd be really helpful. When it comes to moving to Australia with kids, I know finding a good school can be something that can be a real worry. Is that something that people should be looking at online before they make the move, or should they be getting here and then looking at suburbs and trying to figure out where to, like, how does it all fit into the piece of the puzzle? Because I know that it was something that was really, we found very stressful when we were moving because our twins were just about to start prep a few months after we arrived. So we knew we needed a school. We didn't really know where in Brisbane, because we hadn't really been to Brisbane, where we were going to move. It's a bit daunting trying to figure out your school options when you don't really know the suburbs and you don't really know whether you can fully research schools online or whether you're better off getting here and then viewing schools. Like, where do you begin with that?
Absolutely. So I think I would say to all of our customers, clients who have children who are coming across, is don't worry about the schools. We will always take care of that as part of our processes, understanding both the locations and also ensuring that the schools within those locations work for you as a family. And we'll do that deep dive with the families to understand the needs of the family and the children, and then do that deep dive as well in the areas to understand the schools, the locations, the quality of the schools, the reports, both government and local, etc. And also really reaching out to people that we have contacts with in locations to understand the real feedback from the people who may live in that area, who may go to that school as well, and understand it. So I would say to parents who are, bringing kids over, don't worry about trying to research lots of schools or trying to find schools before you come, because it will blow your mind. There's lots of very good schools out here. We can do all that for you, and we always do that for all of our clients, is ensuring that we find the right schools for them and work with the parents. And obviously, when you do arrive, there's generally lots of time for parents to go to the local schools and have a conversation with them. The schools here are really good and open about accepting people in and showing them around the schools and kind of showing them what the goods of the school are. So I think my message would be, don't worry too much about schools. I know it's probably one of the most important things that people will think about when they're moving to Perth with a family is schools, and I totally get it. But we can take care of that. So, but if you're not using a relocation agent, then absolutely, again, don't panic. I would absolutely think about tying down your location, tying down where you're going to live, and then start to look at the schools within the area that you've decided upon. And you can do that research if you need to as well.
Yeah, I think that's how we ended up approaching it. We did some research online. We narrowed down the schools that we thought sounded like our kind of school in the area where we thought we would end up living. But then when we got here and started exploring, you kind of make different choices around your area as well, because when you actually, you do all this online research and then you get to that location and it just doesn't have the same vibe that you were expecting, or you might end up feeling more of an affinity with a different suburb that wasn't even on your list because you happened to drive through and stop for a coffee and you liked it. And that then changes everything that you've been planning about the schools, because you just didn't know which area you were going to settle. And then likewise with schools, when we were looking around, we made the short list of what schools we thought we would look at. And then when we got here, we started having conversations with real estate agents and with families in playgrounds and parks, and we were giving different recommendations of different schools, and we ended up going to see a few different ones. And your expectation of what they're like when you've looked at them online versus the reality when you've had a look round, you can just get so much more of a better feel for if it's going to be the right fit for your kids when you're there in person. So I know I always sort of say to people, if you can do some research online, but then actually getting there and actually going round the school is so much more valuable, because you'll get a really good feedback from the teachers and you'll kind of get to see if it's your kind of school and it's going to suit your kids as well.
Definitely.
So with public transport, again, you were just saying that the train lines have kind of been expanding. I know people moving especially from the UK, I used to hop on the train to go everywhere in the UK. Everything was so well connected. Very expensive to hop on the train, but very connected. What's commuting like in Perth, sort of to get into the city, or if you kind of live further out to kind of travel to jobs? Is there a good network of public transport?
Yeah, the train system here is very good. And for those guys who live in the UK, who might be coming from the UK, very clean and not full up of lots of people. So you're generally not going to be crammed into a train somewhere, pressed up against a window, trying to breathe, as potentially you might be in the UK or some other cities as well around the world.
It blew my mind when we first got here, and just seeing how clean, cheap and accessible trains were.
Absolutely. And I think the next thing is also, I can't remember how much it is now, but it struck me when we first arrived how cheap it is to get around. I think Mandurah is circa 50 minutes away from the centre of Perth, and I think it's something like $5.40 to get into Perth and return. That's just amazing value for money, to be able to go into the centre of the city for that kind of cheap. And for those in the UK, for example, that's $2.50, $2.60. I won't try and do the maths for all the other countries, etc. But I think in terms of cheapness and cleanliness and tidiness, and it's an amazing transport system, very good. It does reach, as I said, there's been a northern line opened up through Joondalup more recently, and connecting some of the more northern suburbs, which is amazing. And that continues to develop as time goes on as well. So If you're looking to live on the east coast, like on the beach, so for Scarborough, Fremantle, the connections from buses into the train stations are usually very strong as well. So those additional connections that allow you to get onto the train, that allows you to go further north and south, are very good as well. The bus system here is quite strong. It's not I'll be honest, it's not as frequent as some cities. So you can use a bus if you like. But I would also say that Perth is a very spread out city. So if you are thinking of moving here, then always think at some point you will need to probably get a car to get around, because it can make it a lot more. It will make life a lot easier for you if you have a car rather than just relying on public transport. Unless, of course, you're in the Perth CBD, which has absolutely, as any most cities have, great transport links, great buses links. So if you're just going in and out of the city, you'll be absolutely fine.
Yeah, no. Now, we talked a bit earlier on about the housing market in Perth. I know that here in Brisbane, it can be really difficult to find rental properties at the moment. There's a lot of competition. How easy is it for somebody who just arrives to find themselves a rental? I know you're able to help secure rentals. Are you ahead of time before people get here so they can move straight into their place? What's the competition like for finding a rental?
Yeah, it can be quite challenging. So certainly, I've been to some viewings particularly in the north of Perth, where there might be 40, 50, 60 other people lined up around the corner, all viewing the house. So if you think that a certain percentage is probably, say 50 people queuing to see one particular property, 40 of those will probably put an application in. So you're immediately in a competition from day one for the moment you go to view that property. So the market still continues to be challenging. It's softened at the moment, but that's the time of year. So we would expect that to happen. And it will again start to pick up over the next few months in terms of both the volume of properties that are out there, but also the rental costs will start to increase, I think, as well. I'll continue to increase. So it can be quite challenging. It can be quite daunting, particularly when you've come from countries that the process here is very different. You get a 10, 15-minute window of opportunity to view a house. It's not a book and I'll go when I've got some time. It's you get given a time, and everybody rocks up at the same time to view this property. And you walk in the door and you walk around and you walk back out again, and then you get an application form or a link for an application that gets sent to you that has to be submitted, usually by the end of that day. So the expectation is by the end of that day, your application will be in. So what we do as relocation agents is take that all away, that stress away from you, particularly if you're not present. We take away that stress of the application process, of doing the viewings, obviously because you're not physically present in the country, and all of the work in preempting and getting your application ready to go, so that when we do apply for properties, or when you say, yes, we love that property, because we always take videos of properties for our clients, that the application process is smooth and simple. If you're not here, it is very difficult to view a property virtually. Very few agents in Perth will provide a virtual viewing. So, and quite often you can't apply for a property without having viewed it, because they'll have what's called an inspection code. And in order to apply, you have to submit the inspection code as part of your application. And without that, you physically cannot apply. So it is very difficult when you're not physically present in Perth to actually do inspections or rental inspections. But in terms of the future, that it will continue to get harder and harder, I think, over the next year or so, to both rent, not so much buying, but renting, particularly in terms of the volume of properties that will be out there, and also the cost, and the amount of people who are also looking for rentals as well.
Yeah, no, I remember it being really surprising to us. We just hadn't really done any research on finding a home and how the home process works when you get here, and we were really shocked to turn up to our first viewing and be surrounded by 20 other families who were also at the same viewing. Nobody kind of prepared us for that, so it was like, hang on, we're here to view, what are you here for? Yeah,
absolutely. It is a shock to the system, and if you're stuck in the world of doing 5, 6, 7 of those over a period of a couple of days, it can get quite demoralizing for clients who are trying to do it by themselves, because you're just not used to that. It just is, and you don't know what the competition is. You haven't got the contacts with the agents and those kind of conversations that we have as relocation agents. in order to support applications from clients.
So can I just ask, how does the process work for you viewing then on behalf of somebody? Do you get to view them? Do you still view them as part of an open home, or do you kind of have relationships with agents?
Yeah. So we have relationships with agents, and on occasions we are able to get viewings for properties outside of the overall viewings. It just depends on the agent, to be fair. I'm going to be totally upfront and honest here. I'm not going to tell you we can see every single house because it would be untrue. But we will always try and get an open viewing or a viewing outside of normal viewing times if we can. And we have that relationship, particularly with agents. And our team has some good relationship with agents across Perth. But yeah, so we will, as part of our process for when we view houses, if we view with lots of other people, we will obviously take videos and photos, because I think one of the things we always say to our clients is that what you see on the internet isn't necessarily what you're going to get. So a video really showing the nooks and crannies and the corners and the edges and the tops and ceilings and the roofs and the pools, all that kind of wonderful stuff will really help you to make a decision. Is that property right for you? Yeah. So we will always do that video. And then we always have great conversations with agents as well. And we start the introduction process of you and your family with the agents at the viewing. So we start to sell you and sell you as a family unit that's going to be great for this property if we think that that's going to be a good property for you at that point. So when the agent goes back to the office and they're confronted by 50 applications coming through the post by the emails over that period of time, the next 24 hours, they will remember you because we've had that conversation. We've handed over what we call a rental resume that talks about you and shows you as a family visually as well. And they will have you at the forefront of their minds while they're considering other applications. So we start that sales process, and that's one of the key things that we always do that really puts our clients at the forefront of being able to get properties.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's relationship building, isn't it? And making you memorable and Absolutely. Making you more than just a name on a bit of paper. You're building up sort of the image of who the family are that are looking for this property and how they're going to treat it and how they're going to fit into their lifestyle and that sort of thing. That's really helpful, all of that. Now, I've got one closing question here for you today. If you had to leave us, I know it's really difficult, with one piece of advice for somebody who is considering moving to Australia, what would that one piece of advice be?
Gosh, there's so many. I would probably, and I'm a planner, so I plan everything, and to meticulous detail. It's just the nature of who I am. But so I would say plan. If I was going to use one word, make sure you plan. Have a think, sit down, have a think about what needs to be done, both whilst you're in your home country and the duration whilst you're still there in order to get to where you need to be, and also when you arrive in Australia, and just write it down. Just have it all, Excel spreadsheet, whatever works for you, whatever works in whether it's Word or your diary, whatever works. Have a plan and write it down, because there are so many things that need to be considered when you are moving to Australia, that having that kind of writing it down and reminding yourself of what you need to do and when you may need to do it by is going to be quite key. So I think that's probably the one thing I would suggest to people is have a plan.
I'm a planner too, so an Excel spreadsheets everywhere and to-do lists and all of that. But when you get it out of your head and you get it on paper, it just helps take some of that stress away as well, because you know what you're doing, what you're working on, what's coming up next and all of that, and it just helps you stay on track. So I think it is a really, really valuable tip there. Where can people go to find you, to find out more about you?
So we have a website, which is e-sterlingservices.com.au. So you're welcome to just click on that website. There's more information on there. The website's actually going to be redeveloped over the next month, so keep an eye out for the new designed website, all singing, all dancing. But there's lots of information on there about what we can do for you. Our prices are on there as well, but also various links for you to click into and more information about blogs and information about Perth. And information about the things we can actually do. And there's lots of links there for you to click on and just book a call. You can just click on the book a call with a relocation specialist tab, get my teeth back in, and the diary will come up and you can book a time that's right for you to come and have a chat with us. And that chat is free. We don't charge you, and we would never ever charge customers for conversations about moving to Perth. That's the bit we love to do as well.
That's fantastic. I'll pop lots of links in the show notes so people can go in and read some of your blogs and find some of your resources. That's so good. Thanks so much for your time today, Charles.
Thanks, Karen.
So thanks again to Charles for coming on the podcast. It was really fantastic talking to you. If you're keen on chatting to Charles, I'll pop his details below so that you can reach out to him and start up a conversation. I hope you found this week's episode useful. If you did, please don't forget to leave a review because it really does help more people find the podcast. And in the meantime, let's get building your new life in Australia one episode at a time.